Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, I believe that we, as a staff, have no objection whatsoever to the recommendations of the commission. We do have some issues associated with what we can legally do. The city of Tucson has a charter, and their charter, and being a chartered city, allows them to do hand count audits on their races, and we are pleased that they would agree to do that, and we will certainly plan on doing that with them and coordinate our activities there. We could probably also ask County Valley the same question. The biggest concern we have is that we are not a chartered government. We have to be basically conform with the laws of the state, and we're a political subdivision. And why I'm doing all the talking is because if you ask for legal counsel, you're going to get a different answer. And the answer is that, quite frankly, the provision of state law does not provide for a hand count audit of any county race, because it's not a contested race. It's a bond question. It's a referendum. And the Audible paragraph 16602, paragraph B, 2F, and it says, if there are no contested races prescribed in this paragraph, a hand count shall not be conducted for that precinct or for that election. It goes on to state that violations of that section could be considered a Class 6 felony. And so that's an trepidation that we have to deal with in going forward. Now, it doesn't mean we shouldn't try to get the state to agree to allow us to do that. And what I would suggest is that we immediately ask for a legal opinion from the Attorney General, as well as request the Secretary of State to allow us to do so and modify their elections manual, so that we don't violate the state election manual and we don't violate state law, and we are able then to conduct the hand count audit on the bond propositions that are going to be on the ballot. And what I would also suggest, and I'm going to get those letters out today to the Attorney General and the Secretary of State, requesting the audit as pursuant to the recommendation of Election Integrity Commission, and ask them for an expedited opinion or expedited review, and allow this matter to put it back and continue it to the October 20th meeting and see what their answers are. And that would allow the board to make a final decision as to whether or not you want to proceed forward under the theory that it's in violation of state law.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Carroll.
Madam Chair, first I have a comment and then a motion. I'd just like to be able to say on whether or not it's going to be prohibited or whether it's going to be approved. I think today we need to take action and be supportive of the idea of a hand count and an audit following the county bond election as well as the city election as mentioned. I will go along with the recommendation of the Elections Integrity Commission. I'd like to thank my commissioner for being here, Ms. Beth Horizon. Thank you today for being here. But I do believe you putting it on the agenda is the right thing to do. Time is of the essence, so I'd like to go ahead and move that we take action regarding the recommendation of the Election Integrity Commission and go along with the hand count audit.
Second.
And that's with
described.
Go along with Mr. Huckleberry's comments about.
Sure, I talked to the Secretary of State's office a couple times last week. I'm sure that they're.
So the bond question then is going to be dependent upon
Requesting a legal opinion from the Attorney General of the State of
and the
Arizona
Secretary of State,
and checking with the State Secretary
so
of
that
State.
we're not in violation,
So
we're not guilty of a Class 6 felony.
I want to make it that I would like to see it proceed. And finally, if we can get a look again on the 20th, that's one thing, but I'm confident that they would and should approve our option here. It's at our expense. I believe it's about $4,500. We have not asked the city of Tucson to contribute to that. This is a contingency fund item that I think is worth the $4,500 estimate, if that's what Mr. Ryan had told me before, Ms. Borazan has confirmed. That seems like a good use of $4,500 of contingency fund money.
Well, it sounds like we're all in agreement. We want this to move forward. The sticking point at this juncture is whether or not the state will allow the county to do a similar thing to the city since we're not chartered and do the hand count since this isn't a contested election. So that our final decision should probably be subject to the Secretary of State and the Attorney General allowing us to proceed.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Miller.
I'd like to ask, first of all, Mr. Huckleberry, what statute was it that we're in violation of if we do a hand count on it? Because everything I've ever read says we are not limited to do a hand count, but what statute is that?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Miller, Title 16, 602, paragraph B, then subparagraph 2, subparagraph F.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing I would like to do is make a friendly amendment to the motion, if you would accept it, to add a race out of Oro Valley to be hand count, and to do a hand count on a race out of Oro Valley as well, one of those races.
Madam Chair, I'll have to ask, was that in any way discussed or put forward by the Elections Integrity Commission? I'd like to stick with your original intention here.
That wasn't specifically discussed. There was a lot of discussion about which races should be done. We were trying to keep it small, but we wouldn't have any objection
That's really
to
dependent
adding that to the
upon,
recommendation. You wouldn't. I wouldn't have any objection.
but Oro Valley hasn't been consulted.
And as long as,
It would be contingent upon Oro Valley agreeing to pay to do it, right?
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Huckleberry.
We're not gonna charge the city of Tucson, then we shouldn't charge Oro Valley too, that's ridiculous.
Madam Chair and members of the board, we're conducting the recall election on behalf of Oro Valley through the intergovernmental agreement. We need to consult with Oro Valley with regard to hand count audit of their races, and I think that's the most appropriate thing to do at this time. And we should be able
The
to-
only thing I'd ask is that it be totally random as to which race in Oro Valley they choose
I agree.
to do a hand
Madam Chair.
That way, we're not playing favorites or anything.
I've been asked to accept the friendly amendment, but I mentioned earlier, time is of the essence. This Elections Integrity Commission did not hear it through all the meetings that you had about Oro Valley. What's the sense in adding it on now? If you want to do the city election, you want to do the bond election, these are elections that are in progress.
Madam Chair, I don't think this would add a significant effort, and since we're doing
Excuse
hand
me.
count audits, I'd like Mr. Huckleberry's opinion on that. Do you think this would add a
I guess
significant
I'll yield the
effort?
floor.
Yeah, it's just going to say he wasn't finished.
It's okay, I understand that Supervisor Miller is sticking up for her constituents. Let's
Yes,
let
it is
Mr.
in my district,
Huckleberry
right?
answer the question.
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, it would be again, because we have an intergovernmental agreement, would allow Oro Valley to select the races to be hand count audited, and given the number of votes out there, it would not be a significant additional work effort.
Would that be an issue with Supervisor Elias's recommendation that they do this randomly? Because I'm willing to accept that if they're okay with that.
Madam
It's the
Madam Chair.
the IGA would have to be amended.
No, Madam Chair, Supervisor Miller, it's really up to them, and I would assume they'd actually want to do it randomly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have,
Bear that out.
we have-
Now we will accept the friendly amendment. I hope it call for the question.
okay, at this point, we're moving forward with the hand count, subject to affirmation at the state level, and then that final decision will be made based on the results of the state, our interaction with the state at our meeting of October 20th. Is that the consensus of this board on that motion?
Fine, I mean, I just add that, you know. we're gonna
I
do
just
the
want to
Oro
make
Valley
sure
thing,
that we're clear about what we're doing here.
Well, let's add the Oro Valley portion.
Yeah,
of it
no,
now.
no, and he's accepted the friendly
Oh, okay.
amendment.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's the.
I'm sorry, I didn't
And
hear Supervisor.
what we're doing is making a tentative decision today based on the outcome we have with the interaction with the state and Oro Valley vis-à-vis the hand count in Oro Valley and vis-à-vis our ability statutorily to move forward with the bond question based on state statute. So
That's fine.
I think that's where we are.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, if that's where we unequivocally are, I'll call the question. Are there any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving back to the regular agenda where the Board of Supervisors sitting as other boards, the Flood Control District Board is a contract with the Summers. What's the pleasure of the board on this item?
Madam Chair, I move the item.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. We now move on to Library District.